notes on the first game. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through some of these and do a little breakdown on our first game that we lost versus the Lunar Rush. I'll probably, maybe tomorrow or another day, go through the second game. I don't feel like, I'm up for 2 analyses today. But anywho, our team comp is set up to be really aggressive early with the Lee Sin in the jungle, and he executed that well. That was the main overall. As well as the team fight at 6 with the dash in from Ahri as well as Hecarim. It sets us up for at 6 to really team fight very well. With very little CC needed, just raw damage. The CC would really only come from the Hecarim ult, and the most of it would come out from just pure damage afterwards. Now the Kindred ult is definitely something that counters us in general, and we thought that we had just countered the Kindred with Lee Sin, but really the Kindred pick in particular really counters an MF pretty hard, as well as a Hecarim, since he essentially only goes in when the team is all clumped together, so he just ults on the whole team once that happens. So in the future, we'll make sure to ban a Kindred whenever something like this happens, so we can avoid that scenario. So I'm going to post my notes on the YouTube link below, so you'll be able to follow along with me when you go through it and watch for yourself. You'll see that I've annotated each note with how I felt it affected the game, good, bad, or there was neither good nor bad, just something of note that I wanted to point out for you to notice for the game. And just as a word of advice, the things that I say are good or bad or neither. I don't mean it, of course, if something is good, it means keep doing it. Bad just means stop doing it. I don't mean anything to be aggressive for you other than that. So my first note here comes to Livid. Where he invades into Kindred's jungle, burns a flash. Great. You got a summoner spell out. Did a great job. Something I didn't note down there, Ucklar, you might want to consider running some movement speed if we do end up having to play Tahm Kench again. That probably would help set up for things like that, so you would have that extra movement speed onto Corki in order to grab him. Because if you were able to devour him right there, that would have most certainly been a kill in bot lane, or at least a flash blown. So that's something to consider in the future if we do have to put you on Tahm again. I know you don't like playing him, but he is one of the OPs right now, and with us playing him, it does help with our pick and ban phase if we're able to use it as a takeaway, even if it's not the best, most optimal pick for us. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit. So the next note I have is watching up here at Bolomo up top. You notice the, let me organize this for real fast. The CS differential is in his favor, and he recently took a lot of poke in lane, and has still healed almost all of it up, with now Tuna losing creeps onto the tower. He's warded right here, so he's perfectly safe. Right now, effectively, Bolomo is laning very well against Gnar. Even though Gnar is level 4, and I'm assuming he probably has 2 points into Boomerang, he does. So his poke right now is starting to get pretty nasty. Alright, here's where you guys make the come around. You make the call. It was very good. It was a great play. You get the E on him first for the slow, so it's almost a guaranteed Q hit. And essentially where he was at right there, there was no way he could have flashed over the wall. He was too far around. So it was a great play overall. Bolomo went around just perfectly, dodged everything. It was a great play. So now I have here, Bolomo has no mana, so effectively he's kind of useless in the lane. But he stays around baiting out the Gnar, which I believe is a pretty good idea. Baits him out, then we have Livid come in, and all he had to do was W to Bolomo right there with that safeguard. Then as soon as you were to hit your cripple, he would have effectively, after he flashed, he would have still been slowed. So you would have had ample time in order to throw out the Sonic Wave and hit him. So in the future, and I have this pointed out several times throughout this clip, that we really need to pay attention to whenever you're ganking with Lee Sin. It makes it significantly easier if you can go into a situation with Safeguard, especially if you're going into a 2v1 scenario. You know you had just killed Kindred. There's no way she's coming back up, so go into this scenario with the Safeguard since we're playing aggressive, and then let's get that cripple down first before we send out the Sonic Wave. Otherwise, you send him back to base, so overall it wasn't completely time lost. I put a bad next to it, but it's really just something to note in the future. I've researched a little bit into Lee Sin recently, and it is pretty much unanimous that you do want to begin ganks with an E. Next thing I want to note, just right now our team is a gold advantage purely on CS. That's a fantastic job. And how did this get swapped back around? Maybe I didn't fix it in the first place. Our team is, yeah, gold lead purely based on CS, which is pretty phenomenal. That's a good way to keep yourself ahead in the game. That's pretty much free. So everybody's CSing pretty well, and that's great. We're going to skip up just a little bit to around 6:30. Okay, so now we know that Kindred has this marked. You know she's in the jungle somewhere. See her come up to this, and you guys are just perfectly in position. I'm not really sure, Madlife, how you knew that she was going to be there. Maybe just intuition. But it was a great call. We had no flashes burned on our side, and we were able to, I believe, get a flash burned out of Kindred. No, Kindred still didn't have flash up. So we were able to get in there, make some ganks. And Livid, you go in for the aggressive jungle clear. Not exactly a good or a bad call. I mean, I would go ahead and call that a neither as well. But that's okay. We're going to go up and look at a laning phase portion real fast. I'm sorry, we're going to jump back to 650. So we have with Bolomo goes in almost all in right here. Uses ult and everything, where he still had more health than you almost the entire time. It was just an overly aggressive play where you used a lot. Whereas if you would have saved that ultimate timer, called for a gank top, you guys would have gotten a kill. Because at this point, he's still super far behind on you. There's really no need for you to play overly aggressive. You can play defensive, and you are still winning lane. So that's the mindset that you really want to be in. Right here we have the camp again from Livid coming into the jungle. I probably should, like I said, if you started with that cripple, it would have helped out tremendously. You would have been able to get both procs off on the cripple in order for the slow. But you still got quite a bit of damage. You burned your flash out of it, so overall, kind of a negative play. But even still scaring him in his own jungle, making him paranoid. Great aggressive early jungling. I'm going to skip up to 920. We're going to take a look down at bot lane. So we look down here at the CS and bot, and we can see that MF is ahead a little bit, and they are playing overly defensive for the most part. I mean, because it is a Janna. So really, and especially look at Janna's health, incredibly low. Ucklar, we need you to move in a little bit more on these fights. See where we're at right here? This should be your line of scrimmage for where you're at. You're still staying behind your minions, whereas you can take a little bit of poke damage from them and still keep on kicking. Especially, you still have health pots sitting in the mix. So it's not like you're going to get put completely out of the fight. You can get some tongues in there, zone them off even more CS, and keep your advantage rolling. And that's really what we need from you out of lanes when you're playing a more defensive support rather than aggressive. Because on aggressive, you have no problem moving up there. But on defensive, when your lane is ahead like this, it's key to zone them out and keep your... to exacerbate your advantage even more than it already is. We're going to skip ahead again for a little bit to... at 1040, my next note is just that Madlife in the mid lane, keeping his wards up, phenomenal job. And the CS differential is still pretty spectacular out of him. Really, bravo, great job. Just a little bit. So we're going to go back up to the top lane. And at this point, the CS is evened out. He's gotten an item on him. And hold on, I'm going to go back just a little bit. So you're coming up into the lane. Like I said, the CS is beginning to even out a little bit. He has an offensive item on him as well. It's like offensive / defensive. You immediately go in with that. You begin the fight with the ultimate. And really, it's just a really questionable call. Like I said, because you're still ahead. So leading off with an ultimate is really more you're waiting for him to use his jump or flash. And that's something that's going to get you behind him and then E him back towards you in order to close the distance closer to your tower in order to get the optimal amount of damage on him. So the next thing that we have right here is Bolomo still in the top lane. Effectively, I mean, you still have the CS lead on him. But your items, you came back, and that was the thing that even the casters commented on. You would come back into lane with a mana crystal and a ruby crystal, which are both non-offensive items. And you started off the lane really aggressive, and that put you sort of behind without teleport. And now, since Tuna knows that, he sees that and makes the play on you. Especially with the Gnar bar. You should have zoned off even more and waited at the tower. You would have lost, let's see, 2 creep. You lost 2 creep. You can move up, take this one, which you do. And there you go. Nothing's the wiser. But you could have saved all of that health from that. So, like I'm going to say continuously through this, when you have a lead, play defensive and let's make calls with the jungler. Because Livid does really well with responding to calls and playing the game the way we should. So let's just keep that in mind and keep that going in the future. So I got kind of off on a tangent there and I missed another call in here on Livid. So Livid is trying to keep the aggressive play up right here. Goes in on Scout. And at this point in the game, you kind of have to realize that you can't trade him anymore. So really, this probably, I know we spoke about the time when it would be most appropriate to switch from the Skirmisher's Saber into the Tracker's Knife. And this is probably going to be one of those times because you know that really out-dueling him isn't exactly an option. So you really have to focus on more overall map control and really making plays happen around the map, translating your lead over to the laners rather than keeping Kindred down. So this we have here, just Bolomo not respecting the Gnar damage. And there he goes. Just gets in there and takes that out. You gotta respect the damage, especially, yeah, in the top lane is all about being defense. It's offense and defense, and it was just the time to play defense. Alright, so, and then right here I just wanted to note that our team is up by almost 1k gold on CS alone. So, phenomenal job by everybody CSing. Even with the down a kill in top lane, he's still up in CS. So we had Livid here. You come in, you see the Gnar, you see both of them, and you know you're 2v1, and Ahri is down here making no moves towards you. That kick-in was very questionable. Although you're still able to pull out and get the kill. I know, you got it. But, in the future, like I say, err on the side of caution. You still had Smite up right there. You could have stayed from the back and waited for them to get it down and tried to outsmite him. That would have still been a win with literally no loss. There's 0 risk and all reward. That's really the things we want to focus on when we're playing, is maximum rewards to minimal risk. So the next thing that I would like to note is that at 14 minutes we get to the point where if you look at the gold at the bottom of Kindred and Lee Sin, so even after all of your aggression, the assists as well as his CSing has kept him fairly close to you in gold. You guys are going to be pretty even on items at the moment, I believe. Exactly, fairly even on items, with him being a little more on the aggressive and you being more on the defensive side. And really, he's going to be able to transition that into a late game better with just by the champion alone. And then we have Bolomo on top, makes the outplay to Get around it, dodges that. Good job. At this point, with the Frozen Mallet, Gnar is essentially just outbuilt you. Really, you are essentially in a super difficult lane, and this is when we really need to put the aggression. Either what you need to do is Livid needs to make the call for Bolomo to stay defensive top, and CS only underneath tower, which you can do by not leaving your line right here. Your line of scrimmage is essentially as far as the tower will shoot. That's as far as you need to leave, which you do right here. However, when we came around and had this skirmish back here, that was really the point that you don't want to do. And there you go, you're moving up to about... It's trying to avoid moving into his range. I know that you're going to get hit a couple times, but as much as possible, the heal from your W should keep you relatively safe in situations like this. And yeah, like I noted here, this is the time that you should have came top, because you see that he's being constantly pushed up here. So either make the call to come top. I see there was an attempted gank mid. Let's take a look at what happened there. Spotted out by a ward. Yeah, again, there's no waves there though. It was really just, you just gave away your positioning for free. Again, let's try to another thing that you can do for all the reward is trying to keep your positioning. Because remember, your positioning in the game is paramount, especially being a Lee Sin. You're super scary. So you want to make sure to stay hidden for as much as possible. I know you already know this. I'm just trying to concrete that. Alright, so at 16 minutes, you see here, again, you started the gank with a Q. Go back, and we're going to go through this a little bit slower. So if Kindred's already up here, there's really nothing you guys can do to avoid that, to knowing that's in the lane. Livid, you come up, you call for the gank. The W range, you would have had 2 more steps and you would have been within W range, and then the Q would have set up. But from there, you would have been in the W range to know that you were not going to win that fight. So you could have W'd, immediately kicked him back out. Because Gnar right here is the one that's going to be doing the majority of your damage. You know you've already shit on Kindred. He's not really the target to kick out of the fight. It's kind of split decision making. Split-second decision-making, and I understand it would be difficult to make. But let's make sure we call out targets when we're going into something like that to know who is going to be doing the more damage. Because right here, Gnar is definitely going to be that person. So I think we've sufficiently beaten a dead horse up here. So we move up to, again, the focus on top lane, since that's really where the game kind of takes over. Gnar takes it. He's got the... excuse me, the name's escaping me right now. I don't know that... What the fuck is his name? I don't remember. Anyway, they took a big purple guy. Big Perp. Perp DZ. And now Gnar is just going to push the shit out of this lane. There's really not much you can do out of that. Essentially, you just leave the lane, let the lane go. Which you all honestly probably should have done here. That really wouldn't have been a terrible call. It's one hit. He could walk up to it regardless if you're there or not. And you have Hecarim ult up. This would have been a perfect time to say, hey, I'm coming mid. You come around through right here. Boom. You try to E her in. Obviously, you know how to gank with Hecarim. I don't have to explain the mechanics. So you could have made a gank into mid and possibly made something happen. However, all we did here was lost top, and you came up and grabbed a couple creep. So let's make sure to, whenever you know, like, hey, I lost top, make a call mid. You know, say, like, I'm coming mid. So try to transition, make the best out of a bad situation, essentially. So we're going to speed up to 19 minutes here. So in 19 minutes, they start to group up, and they understand. They take the dragon, because they're grouped up now. They know that Gnar basically has a huge advantage, and he can start taking over this game. And they also, let's see what else they also have vision on. They don't have vision on anybody. They just are making a decisive team call right now to all move mid, which is something that benefits us quite a bit. Sorry, phone call. Which benefits us quite a bit in the second game. So here, they make the decisive team call. They take out the mid tower. And we have Bolomo just runs to the tower to watch it die. So from here, we know they're going to take the tower. And Ahri is going to have the wave clear in order to take out that small wave. And we know with your wave being right here, their wave is going to be right there as well. So you have ample time in order to make some plays elsewhere. You could have cleared this with enough time to come back here in lane if they would have stayed and pushed. So make sure to prioritize not clumping together when you're not going to clump together and make something happen. So basically to utilize your time and resources as best as possible. Think about it like a jungler would. You really want to maximize your gold efficiency in the game, as well as your team fight ability, which there wasn't really a lot of opportunity with Pipsqueak. He already made the call to go bottom, so there wasn't a lot to do. And right here, Pipsqueak, you're at the point in the game where you really can't go without wards. I wouldn't be mad at you on this play if you would have had a ward right here in the tri-bush, but you literally had 0 wards bot, so there was, yeah, nothing. That was all on you, man. Okay, we're gonna move up about 40 seconds. Alright, so we have Ucklar and Ahri mid, with these two guys mid. So essentially right here is you're not really doing a whole lot in the mid lane. You do eventually move bottom, but... See, when did you start mid lane? 21:30. You started at mid lane at 21:20. That's 20 seconds that you could have started rotating down to bot lane after, especially even to ward up. You saw they warded right here. That's a time you know that they're going to be moving towards bot side jungle. You want to move back towards this way, ward right here, and come towards this bot lane to protect MF. MF is your carry that you need to make sure that you keep an eye on and that you're near most of the time. Don't wait for Gnar to already be in the lane. At this point, he wasn't aggressive, but he definitely could have been. He has the Gnar bar as well as the Gnar ultimate up. He could have killed him very easily underneath tower. But instead, we try to make a counterplay on him in here, with Gnar being the fed one, which his Gnar bar was running out. It was a decent call, but again, the over-aggression is really what hurt us here a whole lot. If we would have just let him go after that would have happened, we would have still had everyone alive and a low-health enemy that we could have then pushed and taken this. This would have been the first time we'd taken bot tower. Bot tower isn't touched after this the entire game, but we could have had that tower off of that play. So it's just something to think about when you're trying to make aggressive plays. So at this time, I wanted to note that their word control is doing fairly well. They have essentially, they know exactly when you guys are coming out of this side, and they have this right here. So they have the majority of their wards being offense, whereas your ward should be in similar spots defensively. We got this right here. Livid took the wolves for the scouting spirit, as well as this ward down here that I'm assuming you put down when Ucklar went bot. But these are still things that we want to cement up. Like, we should have had a ward somewhere in this general vicinity here. That would have benefited us greatly. Oh, hold on. So right here we have Livid setting up to make a gank, which probably, I mean, I don't think you really have vision right here, but going in sooner rather than later when you don't have any vision of where this is. Because as you can see, you didn't have a ward here, so you had no idea what was coming on the other side or what's coming from behind them. So really, you kind of set yourself up for failure with letting all those unknowns and trying to make an aggressive play, which is something that's sort of happens quite a bit in this game. However, it happens in the second game from this as well, but the difference is that when you make these aggressive plays with no vision, you do so decisively and with the team behind you. And I believe Bolomo also does that in his famous where he goes in bot and in bot jungle near red and calls for help, 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 and everybody's right there, and the call is decisive, and you guys went on to win that game very decisively. I use the word decisive a lot because that is really everything that changes the tide of these games, is whether decisions are made instantaneously and unanimously, or just spotty or not at all. So right here, another thing that I wanted to note was your build here. Pipsqueak was another thing that really was a detriment to the team. Building this Essence Reaver into IE, your attack speed is incredibly low in team fights. You do have the attack speed steroid, but at this point in the game, you really want to be able to do a consistent amount of damage with that Gnar being right in your face. Because essentially at this game, you're going to try to, as AD carry, you don't want to get hit, so you want to stay as far back as possible, dodging the Lux AoE, as well as the Gnar engage. Those are the only two things you're worried about. So the next thing you could have went into was the gun, the rapid fire cannon. And from there, the next build should have been LDR, with Gnar being such a threat in this game. And LDR would have been exactly what you need, since he's going to be the main front line. Again, that doesn't leave you a lot of defensive, since there's no lifesteal. However, taking out their tank is really your main priority, and you will still get a little bit of life back, I believe, from Essence Reaver. No, it does not. Well, so really, you're really going to only get your lifesteal back from Doran's Blade, but that's still enough to make you useful. So I talked through the beginning of this fight. Let's really analyze what goes on here. So we're coming out of Dragon Pit. We know that he's coming in right here. You start with the rain of arrows down. We do not know these guys are coming, except for now. We know Lux is coming. So we know Lux is here. The call is they're split. They're split. Now, if you would have held on to your ult, we would have had the time to make the split call, and had either these guys come up to you and either capitalize on that call, or not made the go in at all and wait for a better engage. Because right here, since these half of the people were all engaged on just you, Kindred was able to throw down his ult, and they were able to capitalize on your misposition, and basically, they were all able to collapse on you. Now this MF ult is just hella unfortunate, because really you should have gotten him. Or we could have had a Madlife. Q and E were down. There's nothing he could have done right there. So really that was, that MF ult was just unfortunate with Janna being in the mix. Ucklar was, there was too many people there to really move in. It was just a team fight that wasn't really going well from the start. But the MF ult was a decent try. I wouldn't fault you for doing that. So again, the rest of it is just pretty much everybody just getting picked off. And so this right here, this is just the team is basically crumbled apart right here. And Livid makes that Q and takes it in because he wanted the kill, which was just definitely not worth it. Even if you would have got the kill, you were guaranteed dead. And they could have still taken the tower with these three. So, like I said, always err on the side of caution, especially when you're down and losing. Losing another kill is definitely not what you want when you have at least a slight chance of defending. You have a better chance of defending than you do to suicide. You're 100% dead that way. Otherwise, you can still live on tower with them taking more tower shots and possibly being able to turn the fight and dissuade this oncoming Baron. So the next tier is, since we knew after that fight that everyone was incredibly low, the next call should have been the Baron. We have Ucklar was up here, MF starts going towards red buff. They should have called her up to do the Baron, sent Hecarim straight into Baron. You had a cannon wave there. You would have just lost one wave of creep with very little turret damage, and everyone would have been on this. Would you have been able to take it in time? It's tough to call. Probably not. But I don't know. It probably wouldn't have been a good call. Now that I think about it. I guess you guys really... Because really all that happened right here was we licked our wounds. And we got waves pushing. So I guess maybe my initial reaction was wrong. I guess probably that was the best idea to do. There's not much else you really could have gotten accomplished. It's okay. We're going to go ahead and go with that. Um, just going to move forward to into 28 minutes here. We have the Gnar is effectively now. We know Gnar is split pushing. We see some of their team mid. We make the pings. We see Janna's here. Moving top. We're moving top for him because we think possibly Baron. They're also prepping for the Baron as well. But we have the Gnar down bot. So basically we all back up and just stop out. We do now know that now it is a 4v4. With our team definitely having the advantage, we should have stayed there with the 4v4 and continued to contest what was going on if we knew that Hecarim was going to just 1v1 bot. He does end up dying, but and actually you guys do end up contesting, but they still take the Baron out of it, which is quite a bummer. Probably should have pressed that a little bit harder, because like I said, 4v4s, you guys have better teamfight and better advantages than they did. With the exception of maybe MF being slightly less damage than Corki is. Except for that ultimate. Actually, really, that ultimate definitely persuades the tide of battle. Although I don't think you had ultimate up. So again, another losing fight that I guess really you couldn't have made. However, poking off of it could still have been to your benefit. So we have here where we bring 4 people bottom when really only 3 people is necessary. Ucklar or Bolomo comes just in time to really watch him die. It's something that really you just have to think and manage your time. Somebody should have called and say, "Hey, we don't need you here. We got him." Even if Gnar would have gotten away with next to 0 HP, he has no health regen and nobody to bring back health anyway. So he would have effectively been taken out of the fight and had to at least base while Bolomo was top defending. And the rest of the people can then converge on top and maybe get a catch, maybe not even lost that tower. There's a possibility. There's tons of possibilities that could have happened right there. Okay, so next we're gonna go up to the next team fight, 3350. So again, it's kind of a standoff here. They're moving into base, obviously, because they know they want to inhib. Alright, so what happens is we don't land any CC, but Bolomo makes the call that I'm going in. This would have been the call right here. Go for the one target that was split up. Everybody else was out here. You could have made the E on him, just done damage, wait for the rest of the people to come in, and then ultimate on all of them. They would have been more than likely clumped at that point. You would have got the maximum amount of your CC, as well as much more damage done onto the Gnar, because everyone would have made a decisive call to take him out. And that was really where that fight went awry, because we had... not only did we have Bolomo go towards the back lane, the back line, excuse me. Also, Ahri had stayed off to the side here, and a little bit too far from the team in order to make something happen. Oh, I didn't go back far enough. I mean, that was what happened in that fight. And then from here, we hit a 10k gold deficit. It's really difficult to go back on this. And really the last thing that happens is just Pipsqueak being caught out and ending the game. Excuse me. So, overall, the things that I felt that we needed to press on in this game was we had the advantage from the early jungle. We took the advantage, and then we overpressed it. We didn't transition the early jungle advantage into the lanes as much as we could have. And the good things, we had the great CS, of course. Our individual skirmishes were done very well. Madlife was very good at making plays happen, as well as Livid making some really good plays in there. And the early plays out of Bolomo also did a great job to put you ahead for the first 5 or 6 minutes of your lane. However, we need to have a more defensive mindset until we are grouped together as a team, because you have better team mechanics than they do, and that's really where you're going to flourish in these games. So let's focus on, in the coming weeks, let's have a more defensive mindset when it comes to where we're pathing and ganking and optimal decision making that's going to give us the biggest, gold return for wherever we're going and things like that. Think like a jungler when we're going out in these mid to late game and where we're going to put people. As well as Ucklar be thinking about that and making the correct calls on where you position everyone on the team. So I'm going to end the video here before, right as it gets ugly. That's pretty much donezo. But yeah, that is my short analysis of the game. You can check the information below, and hopefully I'll have most of the notes. I'm not sure how much. I'm still new to the YouTube uploading, so I'm not sure how much of the notes it'll actually have on there. As well as I understand the YouTube quality is subpar, but really we're just focusing on looking at the macro plays more so than the minute details. So thanks guys for taking the time and watching this, and